I gotta tell you, sometimes you run out of gas, Abe. Sometimes you're out there stranded in space hoping that you meet a friend who can tow you back into civilization. And that's why I'm glad I've run into you here with microphones, ready to talk about Cowboy Bebop once again.
Yeah!
Oh, yes! Here we go, baby! Let's gas up, because it's time for us to talk Cowboy Bebop Episode 4, Gateway Shuffle. That's right, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people don't like this episode. This is like one of the ones that is like least loved. Does that
they can
surprise
fuck
you?
right off.
I agree. I kind of like this episode.
It's got...
Yeah.
It's not a space fight, but it has the best plane stuff in the entire show.
I think so too. I like it doesn't... It's not one of the big story ones. And it's not the coolest one-offs. Like, there's a few really cool one-offs in this.
It's a little silly.
It's silly. Yeah, but it's an anime. It's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
It's an anime.
Yeah, and this is like episode 4, so it's like they've gotten they've assembled most of the crew, or at least the human parts of the crew.
Yeah, except for one part, but yeah.
There's one part that's missing, but yeah. We got a show now, and this is like the first episode where it's like, let's have fun with it. Well, let's do a little fun one.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if nothing, it is an episodic serial in some ways. So there are episodes where we're not adding crew members or telling the large story, and this is definitely one of those. It is interesting that they chose to do this episode and the next one before they introduced Edward. Like, I feel like the intro to this show is officially over after the next one, So Edward, in a strange way, feels like a right turn you're not expecting, because this is when you would have thought they would have introduced them.
I love this observation, because it's not like look, there's no wrong way to skin a cat. I'm gonna put me down.
Yeah, skin it.
Like Community or like a show like that. It's like at the end of episode 1, it's like there's a shot of the group, all 6 of them sitting there, and it's like, this is the show. This show doesn't look, it's like, wait, is he gonna leave? Is he here? What's going on? Like, are they together? Like, it takes a while for you to understand who is going to be the show.
Well, and that segues perfectly into the top of this episode, where we are, I think, surprised to discover that we're still watching Faye. Right? Like, I mean, she's in the title sequence, so I guess you shouldn't be that surprised. But we open the episode with Faye, who last we saw was sailing off into, the netherworld with all the Bebop's money. And here she is, out of gas beside Jupiter, and it's like, that's how you die. That's how death happens, my friend. Out of gas in space. What was your fucking plan?
She's just eating chocolate, and one of them just says sugar.
Just sugar.
Just sugar. God,
just a packet of chocolate, a packet of sugar.
You're so fucked.
You are so 18, bro. Like, you are a child eating like that.
You're Coachella. You are Coachella.
You really are. When was the last time you ran out of gas? By the way, Abe. I know you've done it because everyone's done it. When was the last time you ran out of gas?
It's only happened to me once, and it happened to me when I first moved to LA. And
did you?
It was fine. It was fine.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
I made it like basically to a gas station. So.
I literally ran out of gas as I pulled into a gas station once.
Oh,
it was awesome.
Baby.
I was like, this was totally best bet I ever made.
So
it was
we're better
awesome.
than Faye.
I'm as good as Faye.
Podcast over.
Yeah, I'm as good.
Podcast over.
That's the important idea here. Anyway, Faye's trying to get the attention of any passerby. Several of them do not listen to her. And finally, she encounters a wrecked ship with a homing beacon and decides, hey, maybe this person will give me gas. And so we leave her behind to intersect with Jet and Spike, who are ordering some weird meal at a spaceport. But it turns out they're actually on a bounty hunt for some guy named Morgan, who apparently is just seducing every 18-year-old woman in the world. There's like 5 very young girls with him, and it's like, what's the deal with that, man? That's not cool. Jet, did you want to comment on the potential pedophilia of this character?
Oh, I didn't. Wait, it was a pedophilia? I
No,
just thought
it
it was
young.
Wasn't.
It was just gross.
Like, these all seem like adults to me. It's just
Yeah,
an anime. Everyone looks like a cat.
Right.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
So, like, but yeah, no, it's they're supposed to be like floozies. He's got floozies because he's a big spender, see?
Right. Yeah, this place looks like a mall, weirdly, but the way they treat it, it's very much like a Western bar. And I kind of love that, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
While they're quote-unquote ordering breakfast, what's actually happening is Jet, using some real steampunk computer glasses, finds this guy who they're on a bounty for and discovers, he's had some facial alterations, because apparently there's computer programs that can determine that in the future. Looking forward to that in the Vision Quest Pro plus or whatever.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, love
prop
it.
Too.
Love it. Because we're all going to get surgeries, Abe, in the future. That's one thing I know.
Human Body 2.0? Sign me up.
Yeah, put some USB-C ports in my arms, baby.
Put that hunk of metal in my brain.
Give me those mantis blades. You know the ones.
Anyway, be a crab.
Just as they're about to finally make their first score of the series, a group called Space Warriors shows up and literally just shoots the hell out of everybody. Just murders everyone.
Can we talk about the name of the leader?
Yes, Twinkle Maria Murdoch. What did you want to say about Twinkle Maria?
It's awesome. It's a really cool name. Twinkle Maria.
She's got like an 1800s madam style to her.
Oh yeah.
You know, like that.
She speaks French.
Yeah, she's got a little bit of a. I think that's what they're sort of pointing at a bit. I mean, visually.
I think the Maria is like Marie Antoinette. You know, like her garb, and she says au revoir.
Yeah. She's got
them eat cake.
She's got the obviously fancy voice in anime. You know,
yeah.
That's a thing anime does, where somebody sounds very fancy, and they, that's what this is. Anyway, so she leads this weird group of terrorists that are clearly very militant and maniacs, and they're ostensibly sort of a save the environment group, right? So they're eco-terrorists, and what they want is, please save this thing that's like a seal that lives in Ganymede somehow.
A sea rat.
Yeah, please save the sea rat, don't kill it. I think that's funny to think of 1998, like, let's pick a terrorist. What would they be like? I know. They'd be like people trying to save the environment.
Save the rats in the sea.
Yeah.
The sea rat.
Well, they really didn't stretch too hard, because this rat, again, looks exactly like a seal. Almost exactly. Yeah. Anyway, they murder everybody. So Jet and Spike decide, I know how we'll solve this. We'll just take her hostage. And they do. It's very clear that when they do this, they don't know what they're dealing with, or who she is even. But they kidnap her and then discover back on board the Bebop that she's actually worth $25 million, and it's like, oh shit, we got a payday on our hands. So
it's par for the course on the beginning of a Bebop episode.
Right.
We might make $25 million.
We might make so much money. They look like, her followers look like they're gonna get into a pretty serious gunfight, and then she's like, orders them down, basically.
She has a bunch of mother boys.
She's so many. Thank you. They are such mother boys. Except for Harrison, the one mother boy who we know is about to die. The whole episode.
All he does is, Mom, please no, Mom.
Please no. Poor Harrison is about to be a dead mother boy, but they agree to let this shit happen, and somehow that does not disturb Spike or Jet. So anyway, Jet gets in contact with an old cop insider to try to negotiate turning her into the cops. Right? That's isn't that how it happens next? I believe that's correct.
Yeah, correct.
We start sort of intercutting with a series of scenes, and we don't understand exactly their relationship. Like, for instance, this is when we get a cut into this ship of the eco-terrorists, the Space Warriors, and we see they have a bunch of monkeys that are screaming in like cryopods, right? And we don't know exactly what that means. And we get sort of some backstory on this organization and discover, yes, she's the leader of this organization. And we find out that the ISSP, who's sort of the space force for this galaxy, had negotiated terms with the Space Warriors to stop them from releasing a virus because now they don't have Mother Murdoch, Twinkle Maria Murdoch, the terrorists are threatening to release the virus, and so therefore the bounty they put out on her, they have to rescind it. So now it turns out the boys on the Bebop have basically just kidnapped a woman that they can't turn in.
Yeah, I believe that the terms we learn it later, but the terms are basically like you will give all of your money to sea rats.
Right.
You know, like
give it all to sea rats.
Outlandish demands from the government.
Correct. So meanwhile, Faye, it turns out, found in this wrecked ship a man who's just about to die, but has just enough time to hand her a briefcase and tell her not to open it. Right? So Faye's like, "You got it, sir. I will honor your request."
And what'd she do? What'd she do immediately?
Right. So then, as she's opening up this briefcase, she discovers a canister with a strange orange, flask, I guess you'd call it.
Like vial. Well,
a vial, yeah.
I think at one point she calls it a ampule, I believe.
Oh, boy. Thank you for knowing that.
You're welcome.
It's a gold-looking... It basically looks like the thing that sand passes through. Right? An hourglass, like a metallic hourglass with a gold object in the center.
You know what would make it better is buttons.
Oh, man, if only they had some buttons on it. Anyhow, so she's busy not honoring a dead man's wish when suddenly a new ship shows up and she radios them. It turns out who's on board the ship? It's the Bebop.
Yeah.
Jet and Spike are just loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Yeah,
they're
like,
hearing from Faye.
You're out of gas. You're so fucked.
Look who it is. It's wonderful.
We're going to get so much money now.
Yeah, we're going to get all that money plus this money.
25 million.
Add it up. We'll finally be rich. Finally beef with our stew, right? Mm-hmm. So just as Faye discovers it is in fact the Bebop who she's been radioing, we get to the eye catch. So then we cut to, Faye is handcuffed again. Classic.
Yep.
This time arms behind her head because we want to make sure we somehow sexualize the situation. So they did it. And so meanwhile...
That was Ein's idea, actually.
No doubt. That dog has a wicked eye. Anyway, so Spike does exactly what you want Spike to do, which is he sees this gold object and starts hammering on it, just desperately trying to find out what it is.
Exactly what Faye did. Just like, what's this? I need to break it.
So much more reckless than anyone should ever be.
Well, I think it ends with him about to shoot it with the gun.
Yeah, so good.
And we see a shot of Maria where she's like,
this shit, is fucked. Don't do it, man.
Okay, thank
God.
Don't do it.
Yeah, so we get the sense pretty quickly with, the otherwise very smarmy captive. There's something in that ampule that we don't want to get out, right? She's legitimately terrified. Faye suggests, hey, why don't you turn in this thing to the ISSP for a reward? Spike, of course, never believes anything Faye says because they're like siblings. And when Jet contacts his buddy Bob, he's like, hey man, sorry, rules from above, everything's canceled, you can't turn anything in. And they're left with basically no choice but to return Mother to her Mother Boys.
The eco-terrorists are like, no, we're gonna set this shit off now and turn you all into apes.
Right.
Because there we get a little the virus itself is called monkey business.
Monkey business.
What it
Incredible.
does is it takes humans and it makes them into a monkey. With their
monkifies
DNA.
Them. Yes,
it monkifies them, and that's who we saw in the previous on her ship. So they're just like, we're gonna do this to Ganymede, like a whole planet.
Yeah, we're gonna monkify everyone.
So the ISSP is like, okay, you know what? We'll give them what they want. We'll figure it out later. So Bebop is left with their dicks in their hands.
Yes, and their guns on the gold ampules that turns out are full of monkey business.
Would have, if he broke it, series over.
Yeah, which is a very funny ending. In any case, also, by the way, we do see at some point they monkify Harrison. He got monkeyed. You know what I mean?
He got monkeyed.
Yeah, that's what happened to him. He didn't seem pleased. I would say
he wasn't enough of a mother boy.
Wouldn't you say the monkeys seem like they're in pain, by the way? Like they're not having a good time.
Yeah, these monkeys are
They're
full
not-
of rage because
yeah,
they
rage
knew they
monkeys.
used to be men.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, it's
you
pretty
can't
bad.
give them you can't give a monkey a taste of being a human
And
because
then snatch
the
it away.
No, I
like
mean
a
that's
monster.
the worst thing to do.
Yeah. So anyway, cutting back to negotiations. Okay, so they do this handoff, right, where they just send the mother out, and it sort of seems like, oh well, fuck, I guess that's all that was, right?
Mhm.
And we don't know what happened to the gold ampule, other than at some point Spike definitely separated it from the hourglass thing, right?
So cool.
Yeah, it's so cool, right? So then we cut back to the negotiations between these eco-terrorists and this guy who's like sort of a government figure whose whole job is to be worried.
Yeah. It's just like, oh
God. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is the guy who's like, if he fucks this up, I mean, he'll be a monkey, but
Right.
like,
Right,
he'll
right.
be the monkey that all the other monkeys are like.
He'll
"You
be
fucked
chief of
this
the
up."
monkeys. Yes. It won't go well for him among the monkey
No,
kind.
he's dead. He's dead in 5 seconds.
He's a dead monkey for sure. Anyway,
Mhm.
so they find out he passed some legislation, I guess, in the last 10 minutes that limited the harvesting of sea rats, but they wanted him to prohibit the harvesting of sea rats. So they're like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're getting monkeyed. That's it.
You're
We're
getting monkeyed,
we're
yeah.
monkeyfying all of you. So they basically go to the space junkyard with their ship, and they're like, we're about to launch some terrible shit at you, right? So the cops are following them, right? So again, this chief minister is trying to backstab them. And they drive close to the ship thinking, oh, we're going to stop them. And they see some canisters released, but the canisters just turn out to be little signs, right? Like funny little neon signs. They're like, that's all. Meanwhile, so they fly close, they get blown up, and it's like, oh no, what happened? You want to know what happened, bro? The real ship escaped into hyperspace.
Yeah, they took a little zip craft of their own,
Right.
and took the
monkey business.
bioweapon.
Yeah.
And they fucked off, and it's all done just in shots that we're aware of. The ISSP is just like swarms the ship, and then the ship explodes, and you just assume, okay, so that's like several dozen cops dead.
Right. So once that happens, bounty's back, baby. So
They're like, fucking kill them.
So the Bebop's like, well, where are they? Oh shit, they're in hyperspace, which begins our very first ever hyperspace battle, right? So
It's so cool.
it's so good, right? It's so great. So Spike jumps out in the swordfish, and he's like, I'm going to blast them all to pieces. Okay, so before he gets into hyperspace, though, they're like, shoot the monkey rocket! Okay, monkey rocket's out, and there's 3 of them. Okay, so Spike's like, okay, I got like 5 minutes before everyone gets monkeyed, and I got to blast them to pieces with my giant dick gun. Okay, so he's in hyperspace trying to do that. He shoots 2 of the rockets, but the third one gets away from him, and he's like, oh shit, what do I do? He tries to flip a Yui in hyperspace, which almost
cool.
works. Right? Almost works.
Right.
But he doesn't have enough time to stop this war.
From outrunning.
Correct.
And while simultaneously Faye has broken out of her handcuffs
right.
again because they didn't
Love it.
fucking, like, they don't, like, who are these guys?
Yeah,
like,
they're bad
you
at
tied
capturing
up,
her.
You're bad at capturing her.
Yeah.
She escapes every time, and she put the cuffs on Ein, which is super cute.
Very
Because there was
funny.
a moment earlier where her and Ein were like eyeing each other.
Eyeing each other, yeah.
We never talk about Ein. Ein totally intuitive like Spike. He's like,
he's a smart dog.
I don't like what
I don't like your
what
deal,
you're doing
bro.
to the Bebop.
I don't like your
Yeah.
deal. You're not
In any
welcome
case,
here.
she comes over the comms. She's like, I've been listening, and it sounds like you need someone to take that fucking
Take care of that
one
rocket?
missile out.
Yeah.
I just broke out, and I got broke through yet another wall. So
Give me 60%.
70,000. Yeah, 70,000%. They
Right.
agree to 60.
Right. It's very funny. It's very bounty hunter, and like it's clear. Oh, now we're working together, right? So
Yeah.
Faye tries to blast the rocket, but the rocket splits into 1,000 rockets. So
Yeah, which
she's
is
like,
great.
oh shit. So she's like, instead of that, I'm going to yeet out of here. So she zips around, and then the police are like, we got to stop this. The only way we can, closing hyperspace. Trapping
So
them
cool.
forever in hyperspace, right? So then we
Yeah.
get basically a Return of the Jedi flying out of the exploding Death Star sequence where both Faye and Spike nearly die in hyperspace and get out just before the portal closes, leaving the rockets and the eco-terrorists trapped forever in an alternate plane of reality that cannot physically interact with ours, I discovered.
Thread the needle. And the music's really fucking
It's fucking
sick.
great. It's really good. They see all these rockets pass by them, and we learn an interesting fact about hyperspace, which is that apparently you can still see objects in hyperspace with the naked eye, but they cannot intersect in a material plane with ours. And I thought that was just sort of interesting physics. I don't know if that's
it's a cool
anything.
No, it's just made up, but it's because hyperspace is made up. But it's just a cool little world building.
Cool idea.
Tip.
Yeah.
Also want to point out that if you do like this fight in the show, the track that's played is called Too Good, Too Bad, and it fucking rules.
It fucking rules. We're going just a tiny bit long, but I do have to tell you, we cut back to the eco-terrorists, and we have the funniest expression in the series so far from Twinkle
Her
Maria
twitch.
Murdoch. Yeah, just goo. And then she, in a fit of rage, accidentally leaks out the gold ampule that Spike knew enough somehow to plant on her. Which, how did he know? And it breaks into pieces aboard their stupid little ship, and they all got monkified. Right?
Yep. So they're
End
in
episode.
hyperspace forever as monkeys.
As angry monkeys.
That's pretty great.
That's a pretty good ending to a pretty good episode. I loved what we did here, which means it's time for us to push the sky. Abe, anything on craft you want to lead off with?
We each want to say one thing about this episode did particularly well.
Yeah.
And this one I chose, making data interesting, because there's a whole series of like the negotiations are happening. So it's exposition heavy, a lot of Jet talking with ISSP and back and forth. And that's like most of Act 2 in this show and part of Act 3. And they're also trying to reveal, okay, what's this bioweapon and what does it do? It monkifies you. So there's not a lot of time per episode.
It's a lot of plot for a 22 episode or 22 minute episode.
And frankly, something you learn pretty quickly, I feel, after you've watched enough of these, enough movies, is that there's not much you can do to show like scientific schematics.
Agreed.
You know?
Always boring.
But Bebop is precious with every frame, and they want to show you like kind of the subtext, the haunting aspect of this bioweapon is more important than what we're seeing on screen. We just need that to give a sense of validity or truthfulness to the moment. So they use Dutch shots, extreme macros, fuzzy monitors, all revealing enough, but it's again more about the subtext of like, oh, these are kind of hot, like it's you look at a readout of DNA, and I could show you a flat shot on a monitor of someone with those little notches, whatever those are called, that show like this is where the DNA is, I guess. I'm a scientist. But the way they show it with the camera, it's like, yeah, but this is bad stuff, though. You know, it's like what they want a dummy like me to think. Yeah, and they do it effectively by just editing. Like, if you cut the audio, you still know that the data you're looking at is meant to be fearful. And they just do it with cuts and composition of stuff that you have, frankly, no clue what it means. And that's just a really good craftsman. Like, good job. Good job, Bebop.
Yeah, love it. I just want to briefly comment on how cool their version of hyperspace was.
So cool.
Like, I like the idea that it's not that they're going super fast. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really the idea here. It's really that they are in a separate plane, and they kind of play with that idea, and it allows them to do like really cool shots, and I just sort of fun dogfighting stuff, which you don't get to see that much in this franchise. Like, this is probably the best dogfighting stuff, and I think it's partly because they just had a cool idea for hyperspace, right? It's not vastly different. But it's a little
like we
different.
tamed a wormhole or something like that. It had, because the other thing is you can tell at one point Spike's ship hits the side and it warps time space or whatever the fuck that is. Like the semi-permeable membrane that is reality and hyperspace. So I assume some kind of wormholes, you know, or even dimensional, as you mentioned. But just the idea that it's answering questions that you didn't even know that you wanted to ask. Like, that's how far Bebop is thought of. Like, this is what our hyperspace system is.
Yeah, they have, and they chose to sort of get a little flourish on it too, for the purposes of saying, like, we did think about this, right? Like, we actually really did think about this. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, it doesn't actually connect with physics or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't care about that. I care about whether it's narratively consistent and takes away my questions about how it works, which it super does, and adds some fun things that it will play with from time to time in this franchise. So to me, I'm happy with this hyperspace that they chose for
I
Gateway
think it's
Shuffle.
also one that's like aptly suited for like solar system travel. Like, it doesn't seem like it's taking you to galaxies or to another star. It's just taking you down the way from Jupiter to Ganymede or whatever. Pretty, like, it's small stakes. It's strapped together with, spit and glue, as the kind of rest of everything in the show is.
And I kind of love that this is an episode that took on larger stakes. Like, that Bebop's very careful about how it chooses to intersect with the main world, like the world at large. But there are plots where, like, hey, this is going to jeopardize an entire planet or the system or whatever. And they choose, usually spots that are out in the outer recesses so that they wouldn't get famous, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To explore some larger things about how this world works and how fractured it is. Because again, this is a world where there is no government that stops anybody from doing anything, right? Like, the government is just trying to keep things together, man, and it's barely functional, which allows for a lot more sort of terrorism and crime syndicates and things like that. So, this is a world where you need cowboys, right? It's a lawless world. That's kind of what makes it a Western. And in some sense, this the existence of this very silly eco-terrorist group helps reinforce the actual power that Spike and Jet and Faye are wielding talent-wise, because they are able to shove off anybody's pursuit of them. Right? Like, there's nobody that's coming after them. Nobody can come after them because you have to be better than them to come after them. And that's kind of the test that they're going to all face in some ways as the series progresses. Right? Is anybody better than me? So, I love that.
Yeah, that is a part of the Old West where you have to survive by your,
by your gun.
The gun on your hip and, the hat on your head.
Right. I mean, but you're right. I mean, and that's what they're doing.
The hat
here.
as a reference to, like, what's your personal, like, form of justice, but, like, the gun is your power, right? And so if we're talking about basic archetypes, they all kind of, while Bebop is a show immensely about the gray, they are all making black and white decisions all the time because they have to, and sometimes that just means you gotta murk a fool. And this is showing the stakes of, these are eco-terrorists who want to kill everyone on a moon. You get monkified.
Which is the only important thing we're going to remember from this episode, monkifying people. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Abe, I think that it's time for the audience to carry that weight. And talk about the themes it represent in the episode. Do you agree?
I do.
Let's do it. Anything you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I love that writing. The show, I won't say should be lauded for its writing. Its writing is there. It's functional, pretty solid.
Yeah,
very good B+ kind of energy. So that's something to be said. But, like, there's something I really admire about the writing and things like, we get the first line of a character who is going to die by the end of the episode. Like, the audience doesn't know that yet, but, like, so what do you do with that character? Well, one thing you can do is make it so that the first line that they say is literally the line that is, like, their foil or something like that. For example, Twinkle Marie Murdoch, fantastic name, no notes. Her first line in the episode is, "It doesn't matter. 1 ampule doesn't mean much."
Oh, so she said the word ampule. I was like, where did he get that from? It was really vexing me. Well done, Abe.
Yeah, no. She said that, and that's because I wrote it down for a line that basically that's what causes her end. And she's opening with overt pride, basically, is her character, right? I am higher than thou. I am, performative in my injustices. I just think that that's a cool thing that writing does sometimes, that you can choose to do whatever you want with your characters. But Bebop understands this very simple aspect of the trade.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about choosing to make PETA the bad guy in this universe?
It's interesting because Japan's culture around the same time was producing things like Final Fantasy VII, where you were on the side of the eco-terrorists.
Right. That was a weird theme at the time, right?
Well, it's modernization coming from especially the 70s and 80s, where Japan really got buffed up. I mean, if we want to get in the weeds here, this is my personal belief based off of what I know about the history of it. Mm-hmm. So you had this crazy modernism phase where they're completely rebuilding all the cities and stuff, right? Same thing kind of happened post World War II with all of Europe. But so because of this, you have this at the tip of the zeitgeist, this cultural conversation over looking back to the past and the traditions that we had and the kind of spirit, not necessarily spiritual, but like this belief of nature versus the modern, future. Basically what Princess Mononoke is about, right?
Yep.
And I think that once again is Cowboy Bebop emphatically going, we almost always make heroes out of those people because that's where we are culturally right now. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. We like to show gray, weird, off-ball stories, and guess what? Now they're the villains. What are you going to do with that, audience?
What about that? I agree. I thought there was like a really interesting side conversation about the universe that Spike and Jet get into about ordering this Ganymede delicacy, right? So like, or this, so they're at this weird restaurant. And Jet's like, are you going to order and I forget what the name of the dish is, so, we'll just call it the Ganymede dish. You're going to order the Ganymede dish? And Spike's like, should I? And he's like, yeah, it's a delicacy. And then Spike's like, is it good? And he's like, no, it's absolutely disgusting. But what happened is, for a little while it was a rare resource. Now it's not. So they just said it's a delicacy to charge more money for it.
Which is kind of what they did with lobsters, which is what he ends up ordering, which I thought was a funny little joke.
Well, I just also like the sort of cynical world that they live in. Like, they're very blasé about it. Like, they're not offended or making a point of it. But basically every world building detail is pretty cynical. Like, the universe they exist in is pretty cynical, I would argue.
I 100% agree, because it's an indifferent universe.
Yes, it's indifferent. That's correct.
Yeah. And I also love the detail while we're on this, scene. Spike is choosing, the reason he's asking this question is because he's never had it before. He's just ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. Right. That is his goal. Not, I don't care. I don't know what it is. Eat. It's like, what's the most expensive thing? That one. How is that one? So and Jet rightfully points out, you are counting your chickens before they hatch. Like, you are spending money you don't have because you believe that we're going to get it. And it does seem like they're about to get it. But that's the kind of person that Jet is, and that's the kind of person that Spike is.
Well, so on the topic of the kind of person Jet is, so then Faye, after this whole thing like evens out, right, where they don't get anything, she's like, don't worry, we'll get the next one. I'm going to take a shower. And, Spike...
end of the episode.
Right, dude. Spike points out, is she saying what I think she's saying? And this is Jet's response, and I fucking love it. Don't know, don't have an opinion about it. I was like, that is a killer move. What a killer move by Jet. I don't have an opinion. I love it.
Yeah, because that Jet... Yeah, first it reveals, like, I think this is Jet manipulation here.
Oh, yeah,
right?
100%.
And it's fantastic tactic to especially get Spike to not care about something, is to be like, I don't care about it.
Right, so why should you, Spike?
And it's because deep down he's like, maybe she will be the thing that jolts this guy back to life. She might be the electroshock.
I agree.
That restarts his heart.
I agree.
I think Jet is looking out for his boy.
I think that's right. And I just love, like, this is such a pro move. Like, this is the EQ equivalent of moving, like being liquid, like pure water. I just love this shit.
Argumentative water.
Yeah, right? It's like, so I love the
philosophical
mental
water.
jujitsu of it. Like, don't know, don't have an opinion.
Don't have an opinion on it because it completely takes the self out of it. It also like it warps Spike's brain.
Yeah,
like it forces him to have a response because like, well, if you don't have opinion, I have to. And then he goes and checks on Faye, who's obviously getting naked, and just you hear a gunshot,
which is just funny.
That's how it resolves.
Yeah,
and then Jet goes, "Oh,
Spike-o." So wait, but I just want to talk about this jujitsu a little longer because the audience needs to know. Yeah. Wait, the audience needs to know. Abe and I talk about like techniques like this, like just in our interpersonal relationships all the time. Like we're always talking about what is the way, what is the position, mentally and verbally that manipulates this series of events and people into doing what I want them to do. This is like, I was just so profoundly impressed with this.
Yeah, there was at one point either you said it or I said it, but I'll remember. I remember it ever since it came up. There's a right thing to say and there's a correct thing to say.
Right, that's right.
There's big energy from Jet now with the correct thing to say.
Abe is really good. You know? This is like one of Abe's superpowers. Abe is really good at understanding how words will make what people will do in response to words.
Oh shucks.
No, he's really good at that. When I come to Abe about like I'm having this problem, like I'll present the problem to him, and like the answer I'll get will have nothing to do with principles or morals, like nothing to do with that at all. It'll be like, well, if you do this, this is what'll happen. If you do this, this is what'll happen. And he's usually fucking right. And I love that quality about Abe.
Oh, thanks,
I really do. I love it.
It's because I studied under the art of words.
I think it's because you got a little Jet in you. You're a little bit of a Jet boy.
I mean, that's the appeal of Bebop is that I don't think when you have an archetypal cast where everyone is like, you are this thing, you are the white hat, you are the black hat, or whatever.
Yellow bile figure, yes.
And everything is obviously in anime is sensationalized in the way that like it's true with our melodramas in the West and stuff. We have musicals and such, and like there's just these forms that we replicate all the time. And I think that when it's exaggerated as it is in anime, you can't help but go like, okay, so the ensemble is the identity character more or less sometimes. Sometimes the protagonist
in this case it is, yes,
can be bland. I mean, like I'll talk because I'm going to just drop trash anime like as many episodes of this as I
so
can.
Pleased that you're
just
because
I just think it's really funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny to think that you're like in the same category as Cowboy Bebop.
Is it time to talk Dragon Ball Z? Are you going to drop some D-Ball Z on me?
There's an anime about a guy who gets these are all isekais. An anime where a guy gets teleported into a fantasy world where they could do dungeon crawls and stuff like that. Sure. And there's mages and there's archers.
Sure.
Guess what he is? He's a handyman.
Perfect.
He's a fucking plumber, dude.
I love it.
So but like the point of these shows are sometimes that like that protagonist is is Neo. It's just a shapeless blob that you imprint yourself upon. I think Bebop is much different. Bebop is, I'll take a little of that. You're a little Jet, you're a little Ed, the chaotic energy in everyone. They're so exaggerated that you can't identify truly with one of them. You kind of identify in the aggregate.
I like that. I appreciate your resistance to being pinned down to just one type. That's a real Edward move, and I love it.
You're like, I'm the Jet, baby.
Yeah. Why would I, dude? You know I'm a Jet. Like you fucking know it. I know it.
I know you're a Jet.
I have almost none of these other characters in me.
You're my beautiful Jet. Forever.
I really am. Yeah. No, I just love this move. I gotta figure out a way to do it in the future. Don't have an opinion. Because I think that's
so good.
Yeah, man, what a pro move. I'm just very impressed. This was wisdom, and I hope everybody in the audience has learned something from Jet today. Right? Like, I'm serious. Yeah. Like, fucking learn, bro.
It's learn about how, not just how you say stuff, and like how you say stuff matters. Also, what you say matters too.
Right.
Emphatically making positions, not even emphatically, that's not the right word, but making your position something that like almost is game theory at some points. Like this guy is thinking about it as 4D chess, man.
So yeah, he knew exactly how to play Spike in this. He always does, by the way. He does lose his temper sometimes, and like that's kind of interesting. Like there's like 2 or 3 times where he loses temper with Spike.
Yeah,
and
it's also
like, those are worth examining.
There are almost always situations where the other two are acting like children, like you're being irresponsible or you're being selfish, and it kind of explains why Jet doesn't have kids. You know, because it's the one thing that actually bothers him is patience for that kind of mentality, which is could be argued as a flaw for him. There's something I really liked that they did in this episode too. It's kind of craft, but it's also jumping us a little ahead. It's not going to give spoilers.
Sure.
But I think it's indicative of what they're doing thematically with Faye, which is that they do a nice little world building thing where Faye doesn't know about the hyperspace ghosts because we, as the audience, see the missiles semi-transparent like ghosts, and she doesn't really bring it up, but she's like, or she's just reacts to them, and everyone else is like, oh, didn't you go to, like, haven't you gone to high school science? We all learn that that's hyperspace ghosts exist. But it's great because 1 serves a scene because the audience needs to know what is going on with these ghosts, and Faye is a good, insert for us there. But 2, and more importantly, it's a nice little foreshadowing of she didn't go to high school. Which we'll talk about more later. Isn't that fucking fantastic? Just that little bit
of... she didn't know. Right.
It works for this episode, and it works for her character. There's some good writing in this particularly this episode, to be honest.
They're very good at planting larger world stuff. Like in a way that you don't notice it. They did a lot of it the last episode. They did a little bit of it this episode. The next one is when I think the world breaks to the surface in some ways, and that is good. And it'll be a great moment for Cowboy Bebop. But I love these one-off episodes that they're not forgettable, but they're not the ones that stick out from the series, because you do get all this like cool stuff about the world and build up of the characters that matters, And I think that was pretty great. Abe, I'm about ready to soar off into, the equivalent of a space sunset. Yeah. How are you feeling about that?
Don't care. Have no opinion on it.